Hey everybody, welcome back. I want to extend a special welcome to those of you that are new to the channel. I know there's quite a few of you, and also to those of you that are the returning subscribers. It's great to see you guys again. It's been a few days since I did my last video, so I'm going to try to dive right into it today. But before I do, be sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. It helps with the algorithm and helps get this out there a little bit further. Without too much further ado, let's go ahead and talk about what I wanted to talk about today, which is our future has been leveraged away from us. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, it just feels like you always have bad news, Steve. And to a certain degree, I feel like it's important to address these sorts of things. We don't want to live with our heads in the clouds and pretend like certain things aren't happening, because if you don't address that something's happening in the beginning, how can you ever hope to fix it? Just plain and simple. So let's get right down to it. I mean, how has our future been taken away? And I'm going to start today with the job market and fake job postings. Now, I've had people ask me about this before, what in the world, why would anybody ever have a reason to put up a fake job posting? Why would companies out there be making fake job postings? There are tax incentives behind this. Data gathering and data farming that can ultimately even be sent and used as far as selling to other third parties. Very nefarious, I agree. And literally the worst thing you could possibly do to somebody who's trying to find a job or become gainfully employed. Now, with our unemployment rate supposedly as low as 3 or 4% right now, why in the world would anybody be doing this at all? I mean, it just seems like it's ridiculous. Well, I would pose the idea that our unemployment rate is actually far higher. It is far higher than 3 or 4%. And people that are gainfully employed, I mean, let's just talk about this honestly here. People that are gainfully employed, they're counting somebody who has got mountains of student loan debt, a master's degree, and they are stuck working at a part-time job at a fast food restaurant. And this is not knocking anybody who's doing that. Anybody that's out there that has a job and is working hard, more credit to you, absolutely. But this is somebody who's doing that, and they're like, oh, look, they're employed. They're employed. Now, granted, they're not employed in the way that they were meant to be employed through their education, which is a whole other video. This is something that we're not really going to cover in this one, but with the job market the way that it is, we've got all these fake job postings going on out there. So people literally spend countless hours applying to jobs they're never, ever going to be able to get. Now, this is not something that personally affects me. I have more than one small business, and that's what I've done for many, many years, and that's all I do. I actually have a small contracting business, and I do stuff here on YouTube, and there's other things that I do as well. And I'm actually going to be adding consulting to the pile here soon, consulting people here on YouTube as a service. Not just for personal relationships, because many of my other videos, if you've been watching this channel, it all covers that, but just talking about everything from starting your own business to trying to find other financial opportunities and solutions for people, because we need this. I knew I needed this when I was actually starting my own business and beginning to even grow my YouTube channel and do other things that I'm doing. We need solutions that are real, not something where somebody is data harvesting your information when you apply for a job, which is just utterly malicious and just cruel to people that are desperately trying to find work. And what we have to understand too is that when you are doing this, they're basically using a data algorithm that is monitoring everything that you submit to be able to attempt to get that job. So as you submit for that job, if you are not using the right keywords and phrases, and you won't know until you haven't used them, or you just keep ending up on the wrong end of the pile, you won't know that you haven't used the right keywords or phrases until your whatever your submission is just keeps getting dropped over and over and over again. No human even actually sees it. That's disturbing. So you are wasting a whole lot of time for doing that in the attempts to get a job. Now, many of these positions actually do not have a job at the other end of it. They are simply doing it because it makes it look like their company is growing. So it gives a false impression to people out there that there's a level of success actually happening in that company that is not actually happening at all. Very disturbing, very disturbing. Which means basically they're manipulating the system, and I would have to say comes really, really, really close to securities fraud. But also, they're doing it so that it motivates their employees. The employees feel like there's a constant threat of having somebody come in from the outside willing to do their job for less than what they are willing to do it for. So it makes them feel like they have to work harder to keep their job. And I mean, shady, not completely illegal, but definitely kind of shady. I can somewhat even understand that reasoning, but it's just being used to the nth degree these days, and with it being used against everybody that might be submitting that for that position. So if all these people are submitting for these positions that don't exist, and that is being done as a means of manipulating and motivating the employees that currently work there to try and get them to work even harder and accept less pay, then we're all losing all the way around. And as we get beyond that, another way that we've been leveraged out of our future, this is something that I've been following for some period of time. This is even hitting the older generation, people that have retired and are living in, say, manufactured housing, mobile homes, things like that. Private equity, my favorite term, right? Private equity, which used to be not so bad a thing in its inception originally, but has now become something that just literally fleeces anything in any industry that it ever gets involved in anymore. They just basically fleece it for every bit of resources, sell off whatever they can, front load their debt onto the company, and then declare bankruptcy as they leave with every bit of profit that they can, and they screw everybody else over that they leave behind. Well, private equity, since the housing crash of 2008, has been buying up single-family residences all over the place. I would say it's estimated near the area where I'm at about 30%. 30% of homes are now owned by private equity, which is really, really disturbing, especially in areas where the homes are older. They're not going for like newer, really, well, I don't even want to call it high end. A lot of the newer homes, they got plenty of problems, trust me, but basically the way that they're constructed and the amount of quality put into it is just not there anymore. Well, these private equity firms are actually going, generally speaking, for older homes. Ones that are built in the 60s, 70s, 80s, ones that are very, very solidly built that'll be around for much longer than a lot of the newer homes, I think. And as they target these homes and they wipe out that market, what they'll do is they'll buy about 10 homes, 20 homes, collectively raise the price, and then rent it for an exorbitant amount, something crazy. And that affects the entire market around it. Now, everybody is raising their prices to kind of work with that because they're all thinking, hey, look, they're going to make money off that. And now that they've raised the price, the collective price of rent in the area has now gone up. They pretty much eliminate their competition by doing that because everybody's now raising their prices to join with them in it. Not realizing what they're doing is screwing over the entire market and making everything ultimately worse, because then nobody will be able to afford to live there because people's wages and generally their pay just isn't going up. Even in the contracting world, I can tell you this right now. Generally speaking, except for really large companies, we can only afford to charge people based upon, to some degree, what people are able to afford. So if you're a contractor who decides he's going to increase his prices in an attempt to make more money to try and weather the economy a little bit better, and everybody else is keeping theirs low to try and not completely fleece over everybody and their clientele, you're going to end up out in the wind. You're going to end up losing your business. So you can't do that if the economy doesn't warrant it. That side note, let's just tuck that away there, but so now essentially what's happening is the private equity has been moving steadily since 2008 as well, from not just buying up these smaller single-family homes, the older homes like that. They've been buying up manufactured housing, mobile homes, and when I say that, I mean like the parks that they are on, they're buying up the land that they rent from to live, and then doubling the rent rate, and as absolutely screwing over those tenants and those people attempting to retire there. And some of these people are people that have lived there for 10, 20, maybe even longer, maybe even 30 years. And some of these places have been there for an extremely long period of time. And many of our senior citizens have kind of retired to something more simple like that, so that their money will last longer, understandably so. It's a very mathematical equation, right? If they are doing this to our retired senior citizens, especially the boomers, and just running them completely into the ground, I mean, we got real problems here. Now, thankfully, there has been some move against it to try and counteract this, providing ways for them to be able to buy that land and have, I believe it's called the right of first refusal, where they're able to buy that land and have something reasonable set up to where they're not going to be stuck paying a high rent to some private equity company that rushed in there and basically screwed everybody over. There are some states that are pushing back against this because it has become an epidemic. They consider, this is really twisted. I've actually seen a meeting that was published online. I was actually able to watch it on YouTube where they were openly just talking about it. They weren't even ashamed about it. It's not like they were being secretive. It was a private equity firm talking about how basically they considered the residents that were in these mobile home parks, because they're so stable, but also because they have limited ability to go anywhere, they'd have to pay 20, 30 grand just to get that mobile home moved out of that park. Jailed tenants is what they called them, because they knew that they were trapped in whatever they were going to do. Like if they came in there and bought up the place and raised the rent to double the rate, most if not all those people would be forced to live off much, much less, have to pay the rent, and they had very little opportunity to actually take that mobile home and move it out of the park. So they knew that they had entrapped these people and were screwing them over, and they knew that these people couldn't afford it, and that was the way they intended to make money. Now, it's not that I'm against business or finding a good deal, but if your deal in business is finding every which way you can do to screw the people over that you are going to be dealing with, it is inevitable you're going to end up in a situation where it's going to come back on you. It is going to come back on you. There is no escape from that. You cannot screw people over, treat them that way, and do that and have it not come back on you. Anyway, that's pretty much it for my rant today. As always, I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think about all this, and tell me what you think some of our solutions are. Do you think that this solution of attempting the right of first refusal, where a state can basically slow down a private equity firm from being able to just buy up this land and offer opportunities for the people that live there to just be able to purchase the land at a much more reasonable rate and then set up their own form of a co-op? Is that the beginning of going the right direction? Maybe it is. I don't know. I'm curious about your thoughts. So if you haven't hit that subscribe button, shame on you. Jump in there and do that. And I'm going to leave it at that today. And I look forward to talking to you all again soon. Make sure you have a great weekend.